Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. The double standards are just ridiculous. You know, societal and cultural double standards are one thing. For the most part, they might bother you, they might be a little bit annoying, but it's not really that big of a deal, it's just kind of life. But double standards within the justice system, double standards when it comes to issuing justice and investigations, now that's a big friggin' deal. And that's why it's so incredibly frustrating the way these leftoids and Democrats can run afoul of the law and just keep getting away with it. It's a constant travesty of justice. There's no other way to describe it. How many investigations have been launched into Donald Trump over the last 6, almost 7 years? It's endless. I mean, it feels literally endless. It's one after another on state level, federal level, from the DOJ, the FBI. It actually never ends. When one thing flops, then another one begins. Meanwhile, Democrats who are actually committing crimes never seem to be held to account for their actions. Even though we keep stumbling upon massive conspiracies, illegal conspiracies, for some of the most heinous crimes. And of course, that double standard is what we will continue to highlight and expose as more massive bombshell Washington corruption scandals continue to drop this week. Let me show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so we're talking about massive stories. You know, the type of stuff that should be headline news everywhere. But isn't it interesting how you have to come to a random obscure YouTube channel like the Liberal Hive Mind to get this kind of information because the mainstream media totally ignores it? Let me show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. The first bombshell piece from the Conservative Brief: FBI offered $1 million bounty to Christopher Steele for evidence Trump dossier was valid. Sworn testimony in the trial of a Russian operative, said to be the primary source behind former British spy Christopher Steele's dossier on the then GOP presidential nominee Donald Trump, was laced with a bombshell revelation. Under questioning from special counsel John Durham in the trial of Igor Danchenko, FBI analyst Brian Auten testified that the Bureau offered Steele $1 million if he could provide evidence that the explosive claims against Trump contained in the dossier were true. But the former MI6 spy could not do so, the Daily Wire reported on Tuesday. Auden testified that he and a group of FBI agents met with Steele in October 2021, years after he presented his dossier to handlers, and offered him the $1 million stipend if he could provide factual evidence backing up the salacious allegations contained in the dossier, according to Fox News. The offer came years after Director James Comey's FBI used the dossier to obtain warrants from the FISA court to spy on a member of Trump's 2016 campaign. Now, this shows the deep level of corruption and bias at the FBI. How is it that they use Christopher Steele's dossier to apply for a FISA warrant to spy on Donald Trump's White House and campaign when they clearly knew that the evidence was totally uncorroborated and unsubstantiated? This proves that the FBI knew that the information had not been validated. It was not evidence. Everything compiled in the Steele dossier was nothing but hearsay and phony stories. They knew it, and this proves it. Because even later in 2021, they went as far to offer a $1 million bounty for the information to be corroborated. Why was this $1 million bounty, or this effort to corroborate the evidence, not enacted in 2016 when the Steele dossier was being compiled? Well, very simply, folks, because they knew the dossier was fabricated. Andy McCabe claims that, well, if we had the information that we had today, we would have never applied for the FISA warrant. What a load of crap that is. That's nothing but a post after the fact justification in order to save his own behind in front of the American public. They never did the basic due diligence required to verify the information that was being handed to them because they had no interest in doing so. The only interest was to stop Donald Trump at any and all cost, just as was stated in the text messages between Peter Strzok and his lover Lisa Page after Donald Trump won the election in 2016, that Plan B was to be enacted, and that Plan B was the Steele dossier, fabricating evidence to justify endless investigations into Donald Trump in an effort to either have him impeached, have him forcefully resign, or frame him with a crime that he did not commit, and then proceed with charging him. This puts it all into perspective. They can keep doing this stuff over and over and over again, and then in the end avoid culpability because they just say, well, oh, we didn't know at the time. We weren't aware. They were totally aware, because all of their critics who were following the entire time were aware that the whole thing was a load of garbage. I mean, for Pete's sakes, the pee-pee tape. How was anybody supposed to take that seriously? How was anybody supposed to believe that with zero corroborating evidence? Well, whatever applies to the pee-pee tape also applies to the Russian Alpha Bank server that was supposedly in Trump's residence. It's all just so ridiculous and so corrupt and so reprehensible. And the question is, how do they keep getting away with it? And how can you possibly defend this clearly corrupt FBI establishment? Of course, it's not to generalize the entire bureau, but those leading these investigations are clear DNC operatives, DNC shills. We got a couple more bombshells. Take a look at this. The FBI ordered informant Igor Danchenko to erase all evidence from his phone of his role in their attempted coup of President Trump. Danchenko is the one individual those looking into the Trump-Russia collusion fraud wanted to identify, the PSS, the individual who was behind the material amount of Steele dossier lies. At least two sources on the internet had come to this conclusion by Sunday night. The deep state kept Danchenko's name hidden for nearly 4 years. Danchenko's lawyers filed a motion to dismiss the case against their client. Buried inside the filings are several statements that are absolutely devastating for the Stasi FBI. The first bombshell that dropped last month, Durham shocker, Danchenko was a paid FBI informant. In March 2017, the FBI signed the defendant up as a paid confidential human source of the FBI. The FBI terminated its source relationship with the defendant in October 2020, right before the 2020 election took place. Coincidence? I think not. And now we're learning from Hans Mankey that the FBI told Igor Danchenko to dispose of evidence. Hans Mankey writes, "We've known since last week that the FBI made Danchenko a confidential human source so as to hide him from Nunes and other inquiries into the Russiagate scam. Now we find out that an added benefit was that Danchenko could legally dispose of evidence of the Russiagate scam." He releases this document from the United States versus Danchenko cross-examination. Okay, and in fact, Agent Helson, once Mr. Danchenko became a confidential human source, and for good reason, you told him that he should scrub his phone, correct? Yeah, at the beginning, there were 2 times that we had discussed that action was at the beginning of some kind of mask and obfuscate his connection to Steele and any connection to us. And then after the 3-day interview became public, we readdressed that as well, as we assumed he would be most likely targeted by cyber means by the Russians. Of course, the Russians. They took him on as a confidential human source to hide him from any inquiry, and of course thus legally giving him the right to scrub his phone. In order to protect classified United States information from the Russians, no. In order to protect the FBI from Devin Nunes' inquiry. How absolutely devastating this is for the FBI's reputation. This is the FBI that the mainstream media and Democrats keep telling you should not be questioned. I don't know about you guys, but I have a whole lot of questions, and every single new bombshell that drops, even more questions compile on top. And now you won't believe this. I mean, talk about a conflict of interest. In the Hunter Biden Facebook Twitter scandal, which dropped on the Joe Rogan podcast not too long ago, we have another bombshell from the New York Post, which Fox News reported on.
Campaign records show that 2 FBI officials who warned Facebook about posts Hunter Biden's laptop reporting were Democratic donors.
The individuals who warned Facebook and Twitter and told them to censor the Hunter Biden laptop story were Democrat Party donors. The FBI is losing trust with good reason. It almost feels like the FBI is a Gestapo investigative force of the Democrat regime. Democrats are the Soviets and the FBI is the KGB. That is what it feels like. The deep state Democrat regime has weaponized the DOJ and the FBI to attack their political opponents, and it should be an absolute outrage to anyone who's paying attention. I mean, let's just put it into perspective. The FBI and the DOJ is working overtime to launch investigations into Republicans, into Donald Trump and his orbit, with absolutely no evidence, and in many cases by trying to fabricate evidence. Meanwhile, there's evidence of crimes involving Democrats across the board, whether it's Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Hunter Biden, the list goes on, and we see nothing. The only little crumb of some sort of semblance of justice or potential justice comes from John Durham, and even the special counsel investigation doesn't seem to be coming up with much, and I don't think is going to be able to work its way all the way up to the top where it really needs to be, aka directed at Hillary Clinton. But of course, we'll have to see. That's what I got for you guys though. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks for watching, friends, and I will see you on the next one.